And I'm back. How's it going, do-it-yourselfers? Today I'm going to share with you my top 5 tips and tricks that I use while working on cars. Now, whether you do involved repairs like replacing or rebuilding engines, or you do regular maintenance like replacing valve cover gaskets or spark plugs, these tips should help you achieve that easier. And as far as where I've been all this time and why there hasn't been a video for a while, well, I'll explain that later on in this video, but for now, let's get on to the first tip, which involves paper towels. All right, so if you work on cars long enough, there's going to come a point where you need to put a bolt straight down into some hard to reach space. And we'll go something like this. You get your socket on, grab the bolt, put it on the socket, try to keep it in the socket. Then you go like this, trying to aim it, let go. Then you spend about half an hour trying to find it. Now, of course, it's a good idea to have one of these magnets to try to retrieve these bolts, but in order to make sure this doesn't happen, all you have to do is to grab a small piece of paper towel, put it over your socket, and then put your bolt in the socket, and with the paper towel in between them, now it holds it in place and you can go and maneuver this to any place you want without the fear of losing the bolt. And that's pretty much it. Easy peasy, melon squeezy. No, lemon squeezy. No, melon squeezy. No one squeezes lemons like that. All right, next up, measuring exactly how much torque you can produce just by your wrist. Turning your ratchet just by your wrist. And also how much torque you can produce just by your arm. Not your entire weight, just your arm. So let's take this valve cover bolt, for example. So first, you tighten it just by turning your wrist. And you want to make sure you grab the wrench and the extension, if you're using one, the same way every time. I usually just put one finger over and like that and grab it from the head. Don't grab it from the end of it, grab it from the head, and then you just twist it. Do it as hard as, or close to as hard as you can. Next, you grab your torque wrench and set it to a lower settings, let's say 10 foot-pounds or 120 inch-pounds, and then you see if you can turn this bolt that you just tightened. And you keep going up until the bolt moves. And then you do the same thing with your arm. Again, make sure you only use your arm and not your entire body weight behind the wrench or ratchet. And once you find this out, this is going to allow you to cut down on the time it takes to do some repairs. Now, theoretically, this only gives you 2 torque specifications that you can apply just by hand, but as you get more experience while working on cars, you realize that the torque specifications depending on the part, I should say, they don't have to be exact. For example, let's say this bolt that's holding our power steering pump to this assembly, let's say the torque specification for that is 25 foot-pounds. If you apply 30 foot-pounds, nothing bad is gonna happen. However, on the other hand, if you work on the timing components of your car or internal parts of your engine, you wanna make sure you always use a torque wrench, but not only that, you wanna make sure you use an accurate and a recently calibrated torque wrench. And the same thing can obviously be done for your power tools. Just make sure when you're testing it to see how much torque it can put out, and also when you're fixing things, the battery is either fully charged or near full. Because on a lot of tools, the torque output changes greatly depending on how charged the battery is. Unlike the power output of your wrist or your arm, that doesn't change on a day-to-day basis. Just make sure you either have spinach for breakfast every day or never. Because if you do, your power output is going to go through the roof. All right, next up, we're going to talk about funnels. Because if you're like me, you got about 1,000 funnels, but they're never around when you need them. All right, one way to make a quick funnel is to simply grab a piece of paper, put it between 2 of your fingers, and then simply twist it around your fingers like this. Then grab it with your 3rd finger on one side and your thumb, and then slightly twist it, making one end bigger than the other one, kind of like this. And this will usually get you by in a bind. Let's say you're on the side of the road and need to put oil in your car. You can just put it simply like this, put oil in there. You could still leak a little bit from the sides, but this should get you by. Now, a more permanent DIY funnel is one of these. You simply grab one of these 1-quart cans, cut the top, and this is a perfect funnel because, you know, the end will stay in place usually, especially if you're adding oil to your engine. And also I like to keep the cap because this way it keeps the little bit of oil that no matter what you do remains in the can, inside the can, instead of all over your floor or your car for that matter. But obviously this may not be doable on the side of the road because you first need one of these, second you need a razor to be able to cut the top. All right, next up, installing spark plugs into hard to reach places. All right, now obviously this is not the case on this 4-cylinder car because all the spark plugs are easily accessible, but a lot of V6 or V8 engines, especially the rear spark plugs, sometimes are hard to reach. Even if you have an extension and the spark plug socket, which holds the spark plug inside the socket, sometimes you find that you can put the spark plug in there first, then the extension onto the spark plug, but you cannot put them on there together. There simply is not enough space back there, and you don't want to simply drop the spark plug inside the hole and risk damaging the tip of your spark plug. In order to get around that, all you have to do is to get a rubber hose that's the diameter close to 5/8 or whatever size your spark plug is, and then push your spark plug inside of the hose as much as you can to the point where it's not going to come loose, like this. And then you cut the hose to whatever size you need, and then you use that to get the spark plug into the hole, and also you can use the hose to twist it and get it started, and then you can go on to using your extension and your ratchet. And then you can torque down your spark plug to factory spec using your wrist or your arm. That's if you haven't had spinach for today. All right, so I'm a little hesitant about the next tip I want to share with you, because by doing it, you could damage parts or components of your vehicle. However, if you're stuck somewhere and you must get this repair done, this is a good tip to know. And that is how you can break loose a stuck wheel bearing and hub assembly on your car. All right, so as you can see on this GMC Yukon, our hub assembly is attached to the steering knuckle by these 3 bolts. All right, so obviously this car doesn't need its wheel bearing and hub assembly replaced, but the way it's done is that, you remove the wheel, remove your caliper and your rotor, get to behind the hub assembly, loosen those bolts, and then there are tools that will allow you to detach the hub assembly from your steering knuckle, because a lot of times the hub assembly is rusted on or it's on there really tight and it's really hard to loosen. So if you're stuck somewhere without the tools and any other means of getting to the store and buying those tools, or if your only means is your car that you're working on, basically here's what you can do. You can use your steering or your power steering to get that the hub assembly loosened or detached from the steering knuckle. So as you can see, I got my extension here. You basically unscrew these bolts about 1/4 to 1/2 inch, but leave them still screwed into the hub assembly, which is in front of the steering knuckle here. Then you get your socket, you put the socket on the bolt, and you grab a couple of extensions, and you need to extend this out to where you can make it rest against a solid piece, either of the control arm or the frame, somewhere that's not going to move or damage anything. So in this case, it would be probably somewhere around here, back here. Again, this piece here. Basically, you keep this in there and you extend this out to here. Then you get in the car and you turn the wheel. In our case, this is our left front wheel, so you turn the wheel this way. This will, since this is connected to this part of the frame here, it's going to stay in place, and the only give is going to be pushing this bolt against the hub assembly and pushing it out and detaching it from the steering knuckle. Now this should be obviously a last resort sort of deal, because by doing that you could damage your steering components. You could bend or damage your outer tie rods, inner tie rods, or at the very least, even if you don't visibly damage anything or any part of your steering components, you should have your wheels aligned after doing this. Because even if your steering components don't look visibly damaged, they could bend a little bit and throw your alignment off and ruin your tires. Now, if you've never replaced the wheel bearing or hub assembly, this may not make a whole lot of sense for you demonstrating it this way, but if you ever replaced one, you probably know what I'm talking about. All right, now as far as where the hell I've been for the past few months, well, as some of you might have guessed, I've been busy working on the house. I've been doing it by myself, therefore it's very time consuming and tiring. I've been redoing the plumbing, the rewiring the house, taking down some old walls, putting up new walls, also working on the outside, redoing the irrigation system, chopping down trees, and also putting up new trees. And when you do all this by yourself, it doesn't really leave a whole lot of time and energy left for making videos, unfortunately. However, we're going to do things a bit differently to try to remedy this, and that is, if you guys have questions, go ahead and leave it in the comment section, and if you see a question you'd like answered, give it a thumbs up so it moves up in rank and I can see it, and I'm gonna make a video response or a video answering that question. This way, I'm hoping making these types of videos is not gonna be as time consuming. You know, the normal videos, sometimes they take some pre-planning, but even more so, they take some editing and making sure, redoing some of the shots that are not as good as they're supposed to be. However, these videos are not going to be as time consuming to make. So yeah, hopefully I can put out 1 or 2 or 3 of these videos per week, keep you guys busy and not wondering whether, you know, this guy is dead, or if you're a Ratchets and Wrenches hater, hoping this guy is dead. Yeah, I got player haters. All right, so if that sounds like a plan, make sure you subscribe and also click on the bell notification so that YouTube notifies you when my next video comes out. Also, if you want to help my channel grow, make sure you watch one of my other videos. Any video will do. You can try this one, the one below it, or any videos in the suggestion box. That will help as well. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.